Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie. Welcome to the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway, where you'll learn the keys to building a profitable speaking business from speaking industry pros. Each week, we interview a great guest who will share his or her speaking journey, identify what their keys to success have been, and highlight some critical mistakes they've made along the way that you'll want to avoid. Be sure to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, sit back, tune in, and get ready to meet this week's guest.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show. I'm your host, Brett Ridgway, and excited to have as my guest today, Georges Cordoba. Today, George and I will be talking about his story of perseverance, faith, and hope as he battled advanced cancer for 10 years. And during that time, he underwent 10 surgeries, including 4 craniotomies and 2 gamma knife procedures. That doesn't sound like much fun at all, Georges. 7 years ago, Georges transitioned from being a chief technology officer to the field of health and wellness. Today, as a holistic health coach, he works with people who are dealing with cancer or the threat of it, and he helps them transform their health and vitality. As an athlete, he played NCAA Division I tennis for New Mexico State University. He enjoys competing in 10K and half marathon races and is a piano player and music lover. He invests in planting trees worldwide and feeding America's less fortunate population. Georges, welcome to the Spotlight on Speaking show.
Thank you so much, Brett, and thank you for having me on the show. This is an honor for me. I appreciate
I'm excited to have you here. I got to tell you that I came here to record this interview direct from serving soup on the soup kitchen line for an hour this afternoon. So I'm right there with you. And I was a former runner myself. So I never did any marathons or half marathons. I think the longest race I ever ran was probably a 10-miler or whatever, but I was a cross-country guy back in my day, so.
Excellent, yeah.
Now, I wore it all out back then, and I don't do it anymore, but okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Georges, so you are a coach these days in the health and wellness space, and as we were talking before we went live here, the transition in your career from CTO, Chief Technology Officer, to being in the health and wellness space is like a 180-degree flip in terms of the mindset, how you have to approach things, et cetera. So was the impetus for that strictly the battle you had with cancer, or did other things factor into, it's time to do something different?
No, it was really the battle with cancer, and the fact that on year 8, when I had my first craniotomy, it was 4 of them. But on year 8, I was pretty much with 8 surgeries in my pocket. And I took a leap of faith and I decided to go the natural route, holistic journey to heal. And it worked. I've been cancer-free for 12 years now. And but it was that experience, as I say in my book, it was the survival experience was a blessing, because it's almost like the universe, God gave me the chance to sing the song I was born to sing, which is helping people. And as I was a little kid, I was a storyteller. My friends wanted to just, hey, tell us something. I had to come up with it, but they loved it. They knew they were real. So I always thought that I was born for something big. And with this experience, without me knowing, doctors and some churches, they just, people from my church, they asked me to go to different places to talk venues like spas or hospitals, churches. And I found myself very comfortable with that. And obviously the authority of dropping all the traditional treatments and by doing that, that gives you, I mean, it's just some people want to know how you did it, and they want to know about yourself. But it was that transition, and it wasn't at the right time. I had two leaps of faith. One was dropping traditional treatments. I was fortunate because my oncologist, all he said was, "Are you sure, Georges? You sure you want to stop this?" It was year 8, and I just said, "Definitely, Dr. Fon." I'll say his name because he allows me to do this, but I would appreciate if you continue to do follow-up exams for me. So he agreed. Many oncologists don't do that. I have clients where they're trying to do that, and they say, if you're not going to go through treatment, you're going to have to find another doctor, another oncologist. But I was fortunate, and then he said, if you ever want to come back, things are not working out, we can always restart with something that maybe came new or whatever, some new treatments. But so as we went through the treatments, through the follow-ups, he could just not believe it, how I was basically doing better and better and better. And obviously he ended up thinking it was what they call spontaneous remission, but it wasn't that way. So I did take that leap of faith, and then towards my 10th year, I decided to jump ship. But I was already getting ready for that. I had this idea of becoming a nutritionist. I used nutrition for my tennis years, my competition. I actually, in those days, several key players, Jimmy Connors, Martina Navratilova, they're from the 70s and 80s.
Right.
They wrote books about, eating to win. So I did a minor. I studied software engineering, but I did a minor in nutrition. And a lot of this stuff really helped out as I was making the transition to go natural. With the CTO part, I had made not a good investment. It didn't go well. But even like that, I decided to jump ship and go in when I knew I had at least a start. I became a holistic health coach, transformational coaching, and my functional nutritionist. And at that moment, 7 years ago, I decided to transition. Obviously, I advised my company 6 months ahead. People in both situations, I have doctors in my family. Situation one, stopping traditional treatment, they thought I was crazy. And then obviously at the age of 57, jumping ship from a very comfortable position to start all over. That was another, you crazy, you're crazy, you're gonna do that? You should be retiring at the age of 65. And I don't believe in those things. So I didn't ever believe in being a statistic. It's me, and I'll just fight this thing. And here I am. But it wasn't easy. The first part, it's just going from being comfortable, even though it wasn't the best moment either, because of this bad investment. My cash flow wasn't as good as it could have been. But I managed, and I just did it. My wife was very supportive. That's all I needed. And mind you, we had, when I was diagnosed, 3 weeks before my diagnosis, my mother passed from cancer. And on my side of the family, on mother's family, I'm half Greek. My side, the Greek side, pretty much, I'd say my grandpa, my grandma, my mother, my uncle, my godfather, which was my mother's cousin, and many other relatives, since I was little, 4 years old, passed of cancer. So, I feared the disease. I feared the disease since I was very little, and I just saw it as something that will come and take your life. And so that fear consummated when my mom, she passes away, and 3 weeks later, I'm diagnosed with malignant melanoma. And so, when you have these beliefs implanted on you, it probably, and this I'm talking about many people probably in the same boat, it is tough because your reaction is, oh my goodness, I'm doomed. This thing it's ending up plaguing me. But I said no at that moment, and maybe it was my spirit, my competitive spirit with tennis. Tennis, you can't tie. You either win or lose. If you're in a team, the team won, the team tied, or the team lost. Everybody shares responsibility. But in tennis, it's you either beat somebody and they beat you. And I think that attitude helped me a lot to finally understand, because I kept saying, why me? Why me? Five kids. We have five, now they're adults. But at the time, we had a 7-year-old, two 9-year-old twins, a 13-year-old, and a 15-year-old. And so that added more anxiety in the whole experience. But I never gave up. I always thought this once I realized, once I really took responsibility and understood that there was no why. It was my fault. I was in the sun all the time. I was very into my career with the kids. I was trying to do it all. And then I had this emotional situation with my mother. And I just found out a couple of years ago that all disease, Brett, all disease is emotional. And all chronic diseases, no matter what the chronic disease, come up on inflamed bodies. And so I just, I didn't have a coach or anything. I just started to look to clean myself from almost 8 years of chemo and radiotherapy and all the stuff that they threw to me, clean all this stuff in my body, and then work on my holistic self, not only my body, but my emotions, my mind, and my spirituality. It doesn't necessarily have to be religious. It's just your connection to the source. And so, but those decisions took a little bit of faith. Two of the tumors that they worked on me, when I had eight tumors in my brain, melanoma tumors. You could probably see some scars now that I don't have the background, but yeah, and some here. All in all, it was really 11 surgeries, because there's one here that they had to go again, my first craniotomy, but faith had a big role in this. Two of the tumors in my brain were not operable, and they were growing in my back lobe. And it ended up going to some prayer groups, and some people that have the talents of imposing hands. We all have it, but we don't know that. But the power of our healing hands, and it's all faith, So this lady imposed her hands on me. She didn't know what was going on, but I did feel this warm current. And at one point, with my eyes closed, crying, which is good. When you cry, it's actually cleans your soul. But I had this, I kind of like saw this white thing, this white something, and kind of like, I think I heard something that said, "You'll be all right." And what happened is, when I was going for my fourth craniotomy, they said that they had to do it with local anesthesia because it was too close to the motor for my speech. So they were gonna try to first, try it out, and if I was okay speaking, they would put me to sleep completely. But when I did the pre-op, they had some conferences with other Mayo clinics or whatever. They said, "Oh no, you can. It's far enough, so you can put them to sleep, 100%." But the doctor said that was one piece of good news. But the other piece of good news, when they did the pre-op MRI with a kind of like with a helmet, so the surgeon the neurosurgeon knows where to cut or where to saw, really, because they use a small saw. He said the other good piece of news is that the other two tumors did not appear in the MRI. So we're gonna make sure after the surgery, the post-surgery MRI, that's correct, that it is not a false negative. And it ended up being that they were gone. So in a nutshell, that's my story. And I started, like I said, I did not look for it, even though since I was little, I wanted to be a speaker, share stories, motivate people, give them hope. And so I started in small venues, like little holistic summits in person. I've done a couple of things, whether if 500 people, 100 people, or 1,200 people. So I love that, and here I am trying to help people, basically transform their health and vitality. I must say something real quick to the audience. The mind, guys, goes to what is familiar. There's 12 rules of the mind. I'm a hypnotherapist as well. I became that last year just to add value to my clients. But the mind goes to what is familiar. So the deal is that everyone, without exception, it's what is familiar is to go to an oncologist and just give our power to this oncologist. And the doctor said this, the doctor said that. And you lose your power. And we don't give we don't even, it doesn't cross our mind that there could be other things that you could do even parallel to your treatments, which 80% of my clients do. Not only 4 in 7 years have decided, like me, to go completely natural, because it's that element of, just it is so familiar to go into this place. It's changing worldwide right now to go back to those centuries of the East, how they do their stuff, but it's a process, so yeah.
So when you decided that you wanted to become a coach in the health and wellness space, was it like one day, all right, I'm a coach, or did you go through some kind of training process, learning to get yourself into this position? Because obviously a lot of speakers sell coaching and all that, but how did that, how did that
Yeah,
happen for you specifically?
that's a great question. I'm an engineer, so I'm a process person. So as I was still, doing my executive and technology role and doing well with it, I became a Reiki practitioner. Then I became a Reiki master. Then I started to do my coaching with the Health Coach Institute. They have their headquarters in San Francisco, and they have another big office they're huge and they're very good in Chicago. So I got my health and life coaching with them. And then they offered an MBA, a holistic MBA for holistic coaching with transformational, reframing, reliefs and stuff, beliefs and so forth. So I did that as well. And then I jumped into becoming a nutritionist. And then once I got this is before I started. So, but in the, let's say 7 years I've been coaching, but in the last 10 years, before I jumped ship, I was already a coach, just without the mastery. And the other thing was the desire to help people, to let them know that they can do it, that they can move their mountains. My keynote talk is, you can move your mountains. And give them hope. If Georges did it with like this, it could happen. In fact, there's 8 million survivors in the U.S. that went natural, and the numbers are, basically when you put 5 of us together, 10 of us together, we're very similar. It has to have. You have to understand that you have your power from within. So healing doesn't happen from the outside. It happens from the inside out. And once you learn that and you have the certainty, and that's what faith is really nothing else but the certainty of what you want. and then you use your best coach, which is your intuition, which we all lose through the years. We lose that power, we give it to others, our teachers, our parents, our, whoever, the doctors. And so for me, I prepare myself before. I didn't just go all blank. I was a coach already, and I had in mind to become a nutritionist, but the opportunity to be a transformational coach came, and then nutritionist, and I wrote a book that became a bestseller on day one. It's Beating the Odds: My Journey Through Holistic Health to Overcome Advanced Cancer. And then all of a sudden I was actually looking for some aid to one of my sons. He was drinking quite a bit. My second boy, well, they're adults now. He's 35 now, but this was 3 years ago, and I found out of this school in London. It's called Rapid Transformational Therapy. It's a 30-year therapist, Marisa Peer, that put this thing together 15 years ago. And man, it's so efficient, because we can actually go in there into your subconscious mind, and you as the client, you decide that you realize why you act today the way you act, what is holding you up and stuff. So we remove that. The client removes that. Then we do a reframing, and then there's a transformational recording that everybody that finishes, it's like, oh my goodness, it's like I lifted a piano from my shoulders. And in a way, almost everybody has mountains. Everybody has mountains to move, whether it's alcoholism, a disease, losing your, divorce, name it. And they keep coming. I have mountains all the time, situations, I call them mountains. But if we have the certainty that we can move them, in my talk, I use a famous biblical verse that says, if you have faith as big as a mustard seed, which is the smallest seed in the world, you will be able to tell this mountain to move from here to there, and it would move. And that's what happened to me. I just started focusing when I decided to go natural, and I surrender, because our ego is pretty, it could be damaging to us. When I surrender to the process, and they say, look, the doctors have no idea. They tell me to eat everything. But since I had studied some nutrition when I was in college, I thought he's recommending me to eat anything so I don't lose weight. And that's really bad, because the stuff that he said, oh, have this drink, have this shake, he had like 34, 36 grams of sugar, which is an amazing fuel for cells, cancer cells, or any disease. So, yeah.
Right. So I appreciate so much you sharing your inspirational story, and a lot of people can take valuable lessons from that. I do want to hone in a little bit more on your speaking journey. Before we do, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie.
And welcome back to the Spotlight on Speaking Show. And my guest is Georges Cordoba. So circling back around George's 2-year speaking career, now you mentioned you do keynotes. Do you also sell your coaching from the platform? What kind of speaker do you classify yourself as primarily?
Motivational. I think it's giving hope and motivation. Obviously, when I speak, I have books, and my wife comes with me sometimes. If not, I just have a table with books, and I put it on my slides my information so they can book a call and have a discovery call. But really, in those moments, is just to share the story and then talk about. They walk away with. It's about 45 minutes, 45
Okay.
to 15 minutes. I did the course with Speaker Lab with I don't know if you've heard of it.
Grant
And
Baldwin.
so I got. I'm sorry.
Grant Baldwin's the name, right?
Yes, that's his name. And they gave me some great pointers of doing this. The keynote talk, which is you can move your mountains. And in that particular talk, people go away with certain important tips for their physical body, but they also understand how important is your emotions and your mindset and your connection to source, your spirituality, all in 45 minutes. Obviously, I start with my story, but in a way, when we finish, people are basically they're just saying, "Wow, this is amazing! I didn't know about this. I didn't know about the pH balance and your health or things like that." And so I started. I speak Spanish. It's my first language. I'm from Venezuela originally. Like I told you before the show, my dad's family comes from Madrid, Spain, and my mom's side of the family came from Athens, from Greece. And after World War II, without knowing each other, they migrated to Venezuela. Many of my Greek family members came to the States, more so to LA than New York. There's a lot of Greeks in New York too, but they're in Sherman Oaks around the LA area. And but what happened is when they started to telling me to go to places, I started to create very different talks. You can move your mountains, the healing power of forgiveness, the miracles formula, because many people say, hey, you're a miracle. Doctors see me like that. You're a miracle. And everybody can experience miracles, and we could talk about that in a different way. But so I went and approached a couple of very successful, I was living in South Florida, in Miami, Florida, successful centers, spas and centers. There were 3 of them that, were very successful. So I approached them and I said, look, this is me, this is what I can, and I'm starting to coach, but I would love to do my talks here. We can arrange, you keep a cut for bringing me here, stuff like that. Excuse me. And that's how I started. And the thing about it, and I'm not doing it anymore, but at that time, I was preparing my talks in Spanish and English. So I would go, let's say on a Thursday, I did the talk in English, and then they would promote it in Spanish, since it's Miami, on the next Thursday. So I got really busy. It was like 8 months on different talks in the different venues there. Then all of a sudden, the word spreads, and I hear somebody calling me, hey, can you come to this Presbyterian church? We have this thing, a big fair or whatever, and we'd like you to come and give us your faith-based speech, so you could arrange it to that. And so that's how I started. And then, sometimes we had a good turnout, let's say 57 people. That was the first time signed up for the English talk, and only 10 came. But I was okay. I just think, and my thing was, if one person gets the message, that's fine. And so that's how I did it. Then when I was doing my mastery at the Health Coach Institute, they had a conference in Phoenix, and they had this 10K challenge for the newer, for the ones that just signed up for the mastery. And so I qualified for it, and we all got to talk. And that conference had like 800 people. I'm sorry, 1,800 people.
Wow.
And for me, it was the same thing. I just treated it, I'm just sharing what I wanted to share. And I shared that you can move your mountains. I had not done the speaker lab yet, but it went excellent. I ended up second. I didn't win the 10K, but I was pretty lucky there because I brought the first edition of my book. At that time was Good Morning Sunrise, because I wrote the book checking the sunrises in South Beach for about, I don't know, 8 months. I would go Saturdays and Sundays and just write, either in Spanish or English. When I finished, I almost had the book in both languages. All I had to do is really translate one. We translated to Spanish, and I got two editors to really do the good work, So that my biggest venue was that 1800. Then in Toronto last year was pretty small. I had something in a place called, I had a talk in Miami in a place called Leaf Green, but in Spanish, Vive Verde. And that was several hundred people. Actually, I was worried because it was way over the law for the fire department. It was just packed. People wanted to, for some reason. And it was a small venue, and we had a couple hundred people there. So, it's something that I really enjoy. And actually, I'm going to have I don't know if you've heard of Angel Tucci. Angel Tucci.
Doesn't ring a bell offhand, but
Yeah, she's being, out there, very successful speaker, but she has a program. That's how I found you, with Jamie Hawkinson, and basically what it is they help you. They if you sign up, they have this huge database, 64,000 podcasters and speakers and things like that. And for me, it was just, oh my goodness, this is a gold mine. I just need to share who I am and see what happens. I started a little over a month ago, and it's been great. I never really thought about doing email marketing. However, I have to say something here. I believe the reason I have been pretty successful with this is because all I do is think of the person I'm going to help. The money's going to come. The money's going to come some one way or another. So I don't leave anybody behind. I've done pro bono, and I'm finishing up an online course for those who cannot afford, the 90-day program. It's really ends up being 180 days, because people that are going through the disease, particularly, I have people that want to basically prevent it, but the ones that when we finish and they see the results, they want to keep going. So instead of going once a week, we go once every 2 weeks, and then once a month. They want somebody to keep them accountable for a while. Remember, they're shifting their mindset. So, yeah.
so obviously all speakers want more gigs. So what has worked best for you, Georges, to get those speaking gigs that you've had?
Well, podcast.
Okay.
I guess Carl Jung studied it as synchronicities, but there are coincidences sometimes. And, oh man, I'm a speaker. I would like to invite you to this event that I'm gonna be part of. If you don't mind, you can maybe do a workshop or whatever. And that has been my venue. I did in one of this podcasts. This gentleman owns one of the bureaus. It turned out I invested on that, and nothing has come out of there. At the end of
All
the
right,
day,
let's repeat that. What did you invest in that hasn't panned out for you?
on a speaker bureau.
Speaker Bureau. Okay. Just wanted to
Yes.
make sure we were clear. So
Yeah, an international speaker bureau. If you go, I have the link, you go, and it has all my talks, and
yeah.
it's nice, but unless I promote that,
Right.
yeah.
So are you familiar with a service called Podmatch? Have you utilized Podmatch?
No.
Podmatch is a service, pretty inexpensive, like $23 a month, and you put a profile on there about what kind of shows you would like to be on, and it automatically matches you up with suitable shows. And then you can check them out and say, yeah, I think I would be a good guest on that. And you reach out to the event or the person that does that podcast. Or you can say,
Mm-hmm.
"Now that one's not a good fit for me, and I'll pass." And every few hours it sends you like three more
Oh,
possible
wow.
matches to go through. But like I said, it's pretty inexpensive. I've used it myself to get gigs, and I've not used it from the finding guest perspective yet. But I've found several dozen speaking engagements as a result of Podmatch. So I would highly
Oh,
encourage you and other speakers to check it out if you're looking to get on podcasts. All right, so I have one final question for you before we wrap it up here in this episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show. And that is, okay, it's the Bare Your Soul portion of the program, Georges. Tell a story of something that you did as a speaker that was embarrassing at the time, but a valuable lesson was learned, and it would be something that you would highly advise up and coming speakers not to do.
wow. Um, for me, the beginning was worrying so much about my message that I would, kind of like struggle, and I would just say, "Oh, I'm sorry." No, I learned how to keep going. If I couldn't pass that message, I keep going. And that's really, but that was embarrassing for me at the time, and I actually, uh, fear sometimes is good. I feel it with tennis. So it's really anxiety. It's some sort of an adrenaline thing that you get used to it. But in the beginning, I have to say, particularly in Spanish, even though it's my first language, I hadn't used it. I'm in the States in '78. And so, not saying the right word or pronouncing it right in Spanish. I don't worry about my accent in English, but in Spanish. And so I would have to say, oh, how would you say this? And so what I did is, after that, I just wrote my stuff, my script, and I would just go over and over. My wife is much better than me in Spanish, so I just say, "Hey, Nima, please check it out." And no Google Translate, that doesn't work. So, or it didn't at the time. So yeah, it was just, it was embarrassing not to come up with the right word, and just stay stagnant for a few seconds. That was really embarrassing. So I would say prepare your script, no matter the language, and go over it and until you really just say it in your sleep, especially if it's not your first language. But I decided actually it was double work. I do have my coaching protocol in Spanish. I have several clients, ex-clients, but mainly the last 2 years has been, speaking English people, and it's spread, Canada, London, Australia, New Zealand, and also in Spanish, a few places, Mexico, Chile, Spain. But I try to do it in English. I feel more comfortable, believe it or not.
Sure. All right, Georges, I want to give you a couple of minutes to tell people a little bit more about how they can get involved in your world should they so choose.
Yeah, I'll leave you some information, but I would suggest, to first, if you really want to know more about me, and it would be just get a copy of my audiobook. I have it a very, right now it's $6. So you know my story inside and out. But if you or somebody in your family are dealing with cancer, particularly, although I've had people with other chronic diseases, diabetes or heart disease, but the idea is that if you really want to have a free consultation or discovery session, as I call, for free, I could actually help you do a roadmap for two things: prevent the disease or manage it to the point that you reverse it back to health. So I'll leave some information to with Brett, and hopefully, I'll be open. You have my Calendly. We can have a 30-minute discussion about how I can help you. And also, I like to offer one last thing, and this is for anything that you do in your life, in your life purpose. No one will believe in you until you believe in you.
Well, that's always great advice. And we will make sure all this appears in the show notes down below so that you can get to those things that George has talked about. George, thank you so much for sharing your story today and for all that you've overcome to inspire others that they can overcome those types of things also. To all my listeners out there, thank you for joining us today. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. As always, I wish you the greatest of success in all that you do, and may this year be your greatest year yet. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
This has been the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. Be sure to join us every week as we interview speaking industry pros and have them share their best tips for building a profitable speaking business. Until next week, thank you for tuning in, and remember to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com so you can enjoy even more great episodes like this one. While you're here, be sure to subscribe via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Spotlight on Speaking show. Until then, our sincere best wishes to you for the greatest of success as you work to build your own profitable speaking business.